Hello everyone, good day and welcome to our ABE 197 class. So today I will be discussing with you the lecture 4 or the lesson number 4 for this course, which is an overview of the research process. So with this presentation, with this lecture, you will know and you will identify what are those processes, what are those steps in conducting even on writing your research output. So allow me to share with you my presentation. So for this topic, I will be focusing mainly on the research process. So various references, various books in research methodology will give you the common processes involved in research. So there are some literatures would say that there are only 8 steps. So there are only 8 steps in conducting researches. There are only 9 to 10 steps or processes involved in conducting researches, from identifying the problem up to data gathering, and then up to analysis, paper presentation. So with this lecture, you will be guided, you will know what are those processes involved in conducting researches. So allow me to give you the background of this research process. Okay, as we all know that an efficient and well-planned activities will always see success. Whatever the endeavor, whatever the things that we do, if we plan it carefully, we list it down, or we consider that the factors or the things that need to be considered, so it will be done and it will be accomplished accordingly. Okay. Therefore, one need to efficiently plan a research activity, right? Whether you execute it meticulously or in a staggered process, in a staggered manner, or in an efficient manner, as long as you are doing it efficiently, or you are planning it efficiently, then you can have an output, or you can have a research output that is based on your thinking, based on your idea, based on your inquiry. Okay. So the research process normally consists of series of actions or steps necessary to effectively carry out research and the desired sequencing. Okay, it involves a series of actions or steps. When you say series of actions, it is in order, right? You cannot have the first step, you cannot have the second step if you are not done with the first step. So it's a series. It's in order. It is a proper manner. You can have it effectively if you do it in a proper manner or in a series way. These series of activities are closely related, but such activities overlap continuously rather than following a strictly prescribed sequence. For example, you have step 1 to 10, and then you can just skip step 2, right? You can continue to step 3 if it will take you some time to do step 2. However, make sure that the step 2 must be accomplished before finishing the process or finishing the activities. You can skip a certain step, you can skip a certain step according to your plan or series of activities, but you cannot finish everything without going back to the one that you have skipped. Okay, so it can be, it might be, but the proper one, the good one is to follow the steps, particularly on the processes in researches. So researchers should follow research process to get optimized research outcome. Okay, you have to follow the research process. You cannot have the data gathering if you have not identified the problem. You have not specified your objectives. You have not written your literature, or you have not read any related literature, and then you just jump to the conclusion. You cannot do that. So in research, you have to strictly follow the process of research before you can have a good or you can have a good outcome. Okay, that's the golden rule in research. So we have several processes in terms of conducting research. So according to the reference, you can have it by doing a phasing, right? Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So for phase 1, you have 3 major steps. For the phase 2, you also have 3 major steps. And for phase 3, you also have 3 major steps. For the phase 1, the first thing you have to do is to identify, you have to formulate your research problem. Okay? Uh, the next one is you have to conduct literature review. The third one, you have to develop a working hypothesis, right? If this is a null, after conducting the research, maybe the hypothesis you have developed, maybe a null hypothesis or a true hypothesis, right? Whether you reject or you accept that hypothesis. So that's just a sort of review from your high school class in conducting applied or any kinds of researches during your high school, right? So this is not your first time to have your research class, but this time you are being guided, you are being lectured on the specific processes in conducting researches in preparation for your uh, undergraduate thesis or your thesis by the next school year. Okay, so and then in the phase 2, you have to collect the data. You have to prepare the research design. You cannot jump directly into collecting the data if you have not prepared first the design or the methods of your research, right? And then under that, you also have to determine the sampling method, right? So the fifth step is to determine the sampling design. What are the methods? What are the possible analysis that you have to conduct? What are the software that you have to use? What are the groupings of your data? So that's how you identify or you determine the sampling design. And then you can have the data collection or data gathering. It's the sixth step. So once you have identified already, or once you have properly planned your research design and method, and then you can collect the data once the samples are available, or you are you are uh, you are ready with the data gathering, or your setup is already okay or fine, and then you can have the data. And then in the phase 3, it's the process of analyzing up to presentation of research. So first, you have to analyze the data, assuming that you have collected the data already, and then you have to analyze based on your methods, based on your statistical analysis software that you have introduced during your methods or during your sampling design of the sample. And then you can generalize, and then you can interpret the results. And then you have to compare it with the previous or the recent literature which is related to your current study. And you can then present your research output, maybe in a presentation, oral presentation, or poster presentation, or a group presentation through your panel or your committee, or through your manuscript. Okay, you have to write uh, a series of interpretation, results, and discussion on your paper, so that the panel or the committee or whoever examines your research output will understand from the title down to the conclusion. Okay, so that's how the phasing, or that's how the 3 major phases of research process. So it's being grouped. So if you could if you could observe, and the phase 1, it's just more on identifying the research all about, right? From conceptualizing what's your plan, what's your thinking, what's your thought, what do you want to do, and then you write introduction, then you write your objectives, you write the significance of your study until you identify the hypothesis. And then you later on, after doing the research, maybe we reject or we accept this hypothesis. In the phase 2, it's just all about methods and all about methods, from identifying what are the techniques that you want to use, what are the analysis, what are the types of what are the data analysis or data design you want to apply, until you have gathered the data, right? It's all about phase two. And the phase three is all about analysis, interpretation, conceptualization, comparing to the previous or related literature, until manuscript writing. It's all about phase three. Okay, that's how the three phases being differed. In the flow chart, as you can see herein, it indicates that the research process consists of a number of closely related activities, as shown in this chart, right? As referred from Kothari, the book of Kothari in 2004, research methodology. Okay? At times, the first step determines the nature of the last step to be undertaken. If you could see, okay? So you have to define first the research problem until you reaches interpretation and report. So it's just a matter of, from the first step, what are the things you did in the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth step until sixth step. That's how you can come up with your last step, which is 7. If subsequent procedures have not been taken into account in the early stages, serious difficulties may arise, which may even prevent the completion of the study. So that's what I already said to you, or I have previously mentioned, that you cannot jump up to the other process without doing the previous process or the earlier process. You cannot have the results and discussion if you have not gathered the data. That's how it implies accordingly. One should remember that the various steps involved in a research process are not mutually exclusive, nor they are separate and distinct, right? I mean, they are really related with each other. They are a sequence. They are a series of activities that you need to do. I know you're already familiar because during your high school or even your elementary days, your teachers already assign you a simple thing or a simple assignment that might a sort of research that okay, you answer this one based on the questions, and then you answer this one, and then you analyze this one based on this problem. So you cannot answer the problem without conducting literature review or reading some references. So that's how the process is being done, right? So they do not necessarily follow each other in a specific order, and the researcher has to be constantly anticipating at each step in the research process and the requirements. What does it mean is that, for example, if you already have the data, if you already identify your research, you have defined your objectives, you have defined the significance of your study, who will benefit this study, and then what are your methods, and then you can skip the literature. You can continue with the data gathering if you think that literature survey will give you almost a 1 month to do that. But it's really important that you have some certain studies or related studies that you have to conduct first, or you have to read first, you have to note first before doing the data gathering and data analysis. Some researchers, especially those who are already expert, they will start with identifying the problems, objectives of the problems, methods, and then continue with the data gathering. And then they will review what are the recent or the previous studies conducted. And then they will relate with their current findings. What are the results of their current data gathering or their current research? So some will always do that. They can skip the literature and they will continue with the data gathering and the analysis without doing the literature review. But for a neophytes, for a newbie in research, especially you, that you are, it's your first time to do the thesis, I strongly suggest to do the literature survey before doing anything following the literature review. Okay, so you have to review the concepts and theories first, review the previous finding and research finding, before you can come up with the data collection or even the methodology of your study. So that's how the table or the process flow chart implies. Okay? Somehow, initially, the problem may be stated in a broad general way. For some researchers, it's a broad type of research, and then they will just subtopic their research. From project component or project research, and then they will do it in a component, like this is the title. since this is very broad, and then they will have a components like component 1 will do objective 1, component 2 will do objective 2, and then component 3 will do objective number 3, and then each component will also have a sub objectives because of its broadness, the broadness of the study. Then you have to subtopic, and then you have to subcomponent all the research. But for thesis, it's not that broad. I mean, you have to be specific with your research problem or your research idea, so that your objectives are not that much, and then you can just carry out, and then you can just finish your research within the semester or within the school year. So it's not good that your research thinking is too much for a research study or a research, I mean, for a thesis study. Okay. Okay. The first one is to identify the research problem. As I have mentioned, this is one of the most critical part of conducting research. This is somehow very broad. Some students or some researchers will identify the research in a broad way. Like, okay, I want to study this one. I want to focus on this idea. But some critics would say, or some advisors would say, okay, it's a very broad topic. You have to widen. I mean, you have to be specific. It's a very wide idea. It's very broad. You have to be specific. For example, the student would say, I want to design a machine that will like process banana. Okay? There are several processes involved in banana, in the post-harvest or pre-harvest of banana. Very broad. Okay. What do you want? It's specifically for banana. Okay, I just want a machine that will process banana from harvesting down to its end product. No, you cannot say that. You cannot do that. You have to be specific. You have to be specific what certain process of banana processing you want to solve. Problem in banana processing you want to solve. Okay, maybe banana peeling, or the one that peels the banana, right? So that's the specific problem that you want to solve. So do not be too broad with your idea, like, I want to study, I want to solve the problem involved in banana processing. There are a lot of processing involved in banana, for example. So you have to be specific. Which part? The drying, right, in doing banana chips, or the cutting of banana, slicing of banana? Which one? Preserving or peeling of banana? So you have to be specific. That's how the research problem identification all about. So there are two types, accordingly, of the research problems. Those which relate to states of nature, and those which relate to relationships between variables. What does it mean? Okay, the first type is which relate to the states of nature. That's already the nature. I mean, for that nature, for example, in the processing of banana, it's the nature of banana that it has peel, right? The problem is, how can we peel off the banana? Okay, so that's the problem according to the nature. And then the other type is related to the relationship between variables. So what that implies? That implies that in the processing of banana, for example, in the peeling of banana, the problem according to the nature of banana is how to effectively, efficiently, or non-destructively peel off banana. So that's the nature problem, nature type. The relationship between variables for that, for example, there are certain problems involved in peeling of banana. Maybe somehow it will cause defect. It will cause like waste of banana after peeling because of improper and inefficient peeling. So the relationship, maybe the problem between the quality of the banana and the ripeness of the banana. Different variables like its ripeness, its quality, its like maybe the properties of banana will be affected if you will just have an improper peeling process. So that's the relationship between different variables involving, or different factors involving in peeling of banana. So that's just a simple example of how problems comes out, right? How the problems basically in agricultural engineering aspect, there are a lot of problems to be considered. So that's how the two problems basically differs, right? And then at the very outset, the researcher must single out the problem he wants to study. Okay, focus. You have to focus on what certain problem that you want to solve. You want to innovate. Okay, you want to address. You don't need to solve all the things that all the problems involved in that certain process or in that certain issue. You just have to be specific. No, you are not that much capable enough that you have to solve all of this. Uh, Unless if you are a group of researchers, like you are a group of 2 to 5 researchers, and then you can solve maybe that broad problem. So you have to be specific. Okay? He must decide the general area of interest or aspect of a subject matter that he would like to inquire into. As I have mentioned, you have to be specific on what certain problem that you want to address. Okay? The best way of understanding the problem is to discuss it with one's own colleagues or with those having some expertise in the matter. That is why you are being guided with your advisors, with your faculty, instructors, professors, to give somehow a background of how to elaborate or how to be specific with that certain problem. Right? Sir, gusto ko mag-study ani sir, kanigid siya sir, kanang mga mais nga, mga nganing ana. Okay. You have to be specific on what certain issue of that mais production. Okay, kani sir, okay. Okay, for that specific problem, what do you want to do? Okay, you have to you have to screen out from a broad topic, from a wide topic, and then into a shortened one or into a specific one until you comes out with uh, a specific problem or a specific uh, idea that you want to solve. You cannot do everything that you can see. Like, I want to do this. How about your resources? How about your financial capability? How about your technical capability? Can you do this with you alone? How about the time, the management? Okay. So the writing of paper. So you have to consider that. And later on, I will give you an idea on doing the uh, specific things that you have to consider in conducting researches. Okay. According to Professor, nice wonder, correctly states that the statement of the objective is of basic importance because it determines the data which are to be collected. Okay, the characteristics of the data which are relevant, relations which are to be explored, the choice of techniques to be used in terms of explorations, and forming your research report. You cannot have a research report without identifying the problem of the study. Yeah. Provided that you already know your research problem. Okay, this is my problem. Okay, what are the objectives to meet or to address this problem? Okay, who will benefit this? Okay, how significant is this? Okay, what are the steps? What are the strategies that you have to apply in order for you to address this? Okay, what are the methods? Okay, that is why you have to be careful in doing the research, because whatever you have discussed in the objectives, you must address that in your results based on your methods. Again, whatever the things that you have discussed in your objectives, or whatever the things you want, what are the aims of your study, you have to address that. I mean, you have to address that, or it must be answered in your results and discussion, and then it has to be with the methods. Okay, it's not a good research that you have come out with this based on your objectives but you did not follow your methods. It's not a good research. So the 3 things must be considered. Whatever the objectives, it must be addressed, it must be answered by your results based on the methods that you have used. So that's how formulating research problem is very critical in such a manner, right? So it's one of the most important thing that you have to consider. And then after identifying the research, okay, you have already organized, you have already understood, you have specified what are your objectives, what are your specific problems all about, and then you've identified already your objectives, you have already you have already knowledge or the background based on your personal perceptions or personal interest on the project. And then you conduct literature survey or literature review of your specific problem or research. So when doing the literature survey, you have to bear in mind that it's not all about what is very related to your study. Like, you are doing banana, you want to solve the problems involved peeling of banana, and then because you found on the literature that there's no literature in peeling of banana, and then you can say that, oh, This is this is the first study that is being conducted in banana peeling. No, you have also to consider the other agricultural products, other crops involving peeling of their peels, right? Maybe peeling of uh, apple, peeling of pineapples, right? So it's a related study, but a different product. So that's how a literature survey is to be considered. Okay. So the literature survey is a comprehensive study of technical and authorized content related to the research keywords. Okay? It is a comprehensive. When you say comprehensive, it's not focused mainly on what's your crop, what's your sample. If your sample is pineapple, do not limit your research review on pineapple, related to pineapple. You can have maybe if you are doing a machine or a study related to peeling of pineapple, and then you can review what's the process or what's the design of peeling of banana, peeling of apple, peeling of what other crops. So you don't need to limit your review based on the same crop only. Okay, maybe on a different crop but the same process. So you can do the review based on your keywords. You have to do the keywords, right? For example, your research is doing a non-destructive quality analysis in pineapple. Okay, so your keywords is non-destructive, pineapple, quality analysis, and then that's your keywords. When you do literature searching, and then you can say different studies related to quality analysis, non-destructive quality analysis, related to pineapple, and related to etc. So that's how the literature review is being uh, conducted. Okay, it is very important step. Okay, it is a very important step after identifying the problem in the initial phase or the phase one of research. However, this step is revisited by researcher a number of times during research journey. Again, it is revisited by the researcher many times. Why? Even if you already have the data, even if you have analyzed the data already, and then you are doing the paper writing or a manuscript writing, you still have to review your identified literature. Related literature, because you have to relate. You have to cite. Okay, what happened to this research, and then what happened to my current research, and then what's the gap? What's the difference? Okay, and then you have to discuss. Okay, Sanchez. Okay, for example, your literature is the literature one, which is related to your study. For example, is conducted by Rizal. Okay, Rizal mentioned that in peeling of apple, the most common problem is its peel characteristics, because it has like a soft peel characteristic. And then based on your research in pineapple, and then you found that it's very easy because of peel characteristics. So there's a gap, there's a relationship of the two related studies. And then you can mention that, okay, it's better to have this kind of characteristics of crops, so that, etc., etc. So that's how the literature review is being conducted. Most researchers, okay, most researchers will just have like, okay, literature survey is just mainly for the paper, which is part two or section two of the manuscript. It's not all about writing all the things that you have read and then writing or putting that on your part two of the research or your manuscript. No, that's not all about literature survey. Literature survey is relating that previous or related study to your current study. And then you have to mention what's the difference. And then, for example, that's what happened to the study of Rizal. And then another literature survey is what conducted by Bonifacio in peeling of durian, okay, or dehusking of durian. And then it mentioned that Bonifacio mentioned that when doing that peeling process or machine that peels the durian, and then the major problem is the thick characteristic of durian peel, and then they found out that that certain problem is a certain design is not good for that thickness of durian. And then what happened to yours? Relate what's Bonifacio said on his previous study on your current findings. So that's the gap, that's the difference. So, and then you can say it's not that much limited to pineapple, because you did pineapple, you designed a machine for pineapple, and then you will just focus on the different machines on pineapple. No, it would be better if your related are focused mainly on pineapple, but Since not the literature will give you not all too much related or that much related to your current findings. It's one of the most problem of literature review survey. I mean, you cannot find everything that very, very related to your study. Okay, maybe a different crop, different sample, but the same process. Okay, or the same crop, the same sample, but on a different method. Okay, so that's how you do the literature. Okay, okay. Literature survey is important to identify where the gap, okay, is. So I have mentioned already where the gap is. Sa kalahian, what's the difference? What's his findings compared to my current findings? Okay, that's how we do the literature survey. Know on where to contribute to an existing knowledge base. Kanang, asa ka pwede mo lugar. There's already existing. Do not replicate if it's already done by the other researcher. That's how important the literature survey is. You are guided with what's existing and what's available database, and then asa ka mo lugar kay basi hindi gi-replicate ra nimo. You copied his method, you copied his objectives, and then you copied his sampling method. So it's not already a research, it's already existing. Okay? And the literature survey will help the researcher, will help us, will help you to understand the approaches, methodologies, and data sets used by the other scientists. Okay? For example, this method is already done by Rizal, and then you want to do this using a different sample. And then you can cite in your method that the method was, this method is being, this method follows the method conducted by Rizal in blah, blah, blah. But there are some development or there are some adjustment in my current study. So you have to specify that if you have copied some methods. Okay, this was conducted. This method is similar with the method of Sanchez et al. In 2010 in doing this one. But the current method somehow developed or used a different sample. So it depends on the writer. It depends on the researcher. How will you elaborate or how will you define your literature survey? So that's how the survey being conducted. And then one should avoid reinventing the wheel. What do you mean by that? For example, there's already existing. Why you want to twist the story all about that method? Where in fact you can just copy and then you can just cite that particular person who did the same thing ahead of you. For example, this was done already by Sanchez in 2019, and then you want to do the method of Sanchez, and then you just cite. No need to twist the story all about just to make it new, just to make it unique. I mean, just to show that you are doing the unique thing. It's first time to do this. No, do not do that. You're wasting your time. You can just mention, you can just cite this researcher, and then you can use even the same with you, the same with your process, okay? Same with your method. You can do that as long as you cite that particular researcher. It's not a problem at all, okay? This is important if one of the purposes of the research is to get a degree, okay? Gusto ka makahuman, if you want to finish your bachelor's, your master's, or even those doing PhDs, do not twist the story. I mean, just to show that you are doing a unique thing. You are doing the first thing. No. If it's existing and then you want to use that, then you can use that as long as that you did not copy everything. What's the data? What's the method? What's the objectives? It's another story. So that's how the literature survey is important. Okay? That's how the literature, that's the nature of literature survey. Most students, the conception of literature survey is just, okay, this is just a requirement and part 2 of the manuscript. No. That's why some students will put everything that is not related on his or her current study. Like the study is all about coconut. And then the student is doing or putting or copying what's available in the internet, copy-pasted to his or her manuscript, what's available in the Google, in the previous studies, copy-paste without rephrasing, reparaphrasing. It's not a research. So you have to relate your current study based on the related studies available on the internet, in the books, in the journals or articles. Okay? Do not twist the story. Okay, whatever the available thing, you can just cite, you can just paraphrase, but make sure to cite that particular person. Do not show off that you are doing the first thing, you are doing the unique thing. No. If it's already available, then accept the fact that it's already available. Just because your study is not the same as his or her study, you are doing a different method somehow, a different group of sample, or a different, uh, different like you are the previous researcher doing this coconut sample, and then these samples were from America, and then you are doing a variety of coconut in the Philippines, so you are not copying at all. Maybe you are doing similar methods from the related study, but the variety that you used, the local variety that you used, is not already the same. So just cite the particular person. That's how the literature survey is important. We can see, we can check the gap on the previous or related studies compared to your present study. That's how the literature survey is important. According to Isaac Newton, if I have seen farther than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants, right? So Isaac Newton has already specified or already clarified how, I mean, uh, relating the current studies to the previous studies and copying is copying the difference between simplifying the method or adapting the method from the previous to your current with citation, with I mean, acknowledgement, than just copying what is already done. Okay, so that's how the uh, Isaac Newton is that's how Isaac Newton means. So the researchers should able to use previously done work as foundation and propose new idea above that may be supporting or contradicting the previous work, right? What does it mean? Like I have mentioned, you are doing coconut study. You follow the same method. You follow the same process and strategies, but you are using a different variety. You are using the Philippine variety or local variety. You can adapt the method, and then you can contradict. You can discuss what's the difference between your result and the result done in America. You can do that as long as you cite the person or the methods. But make sure also that not every detail of the available data or related study, you copied everything. So you can do that. I mean, and then after that, since you used local variety of coconut in the Philippines, and then the results may differ, may somehow differ, and then you can discuss. Okay, the results done in America shows that this one is one, while in the Philippine variety of coconut, then this one, this one, this one. So that's a research already. You have add up. Okay, you have supported to the innovation or studies related to coconut and this with this one. You have supported, and maybe you have contradicted your study. The study conducted in America in these coconut varieties are this similar or not the same with my current findings. Okay, so that's how the literature survey is important. There are different strategies to search literature. There are different studies. There are different strategies. Okay, when you say strategies, like these are techniques. Okay, so there are different techniques in literature survey. So first is use keywords related to the problem. If your problem is all about non-destructive assessment of pineapple, and then your keywords may be like non-destructive pineapple, and then in your methods you use image processing, and then you do image processing. That's your keywords, and then everything that is related to that will give you in the internet or the books, journals, or open access journals, or any search engine that you can have the uh, published articles. Okay, the backward and forward reference search. What do you mean by the backward and the forward reference search? The backward is like related studies, but not that specific or the same aspect as yours. Like you use coconut, and then you search a different product, but the process are the same or the methods are the same. So it's a backward and a forward reference search. Choose the latest reputable article. Okay, article like you just used predatory articles. What are those predatory articles? Those articles that are just published because of payment. Okay, there are some articles that are published in the internet because of payment without peer review. What do you mean by peer review? Like you have published a paper, you have write a research paper, and then you just pay like $1,000 or 1,000 pesos, and then your paper was not did not undergo a series of peer review. I mean, there are no expert scrutinized. There were no experts reviewed or commented on your paper. It just published directly, so it's not a good research. So a good research has undergone a peer review process, like 2 to 3 reviewers, and then published maybe in a free journals. So the free it become, I mean the free journals, free publications are better because it has a tough or a series of uh, comments and suggestions and critiques on your paper before it will be published. So predatory papers or articles are those papers that just the researchers just paid a certain amount and then there were no certain process or review that involved, and then the paper has been published. So make sure to use predatory non-predatory papers, those that are highly reputable. So those are high-ranking journals. Okay, most high-ranking journals are those cited many times in a year. For example, those papers in Elsevier, those papers published in Springer or Taylor's or whatever or Nature. So that's how you can differentiate reputable papers from non-reputable papers or predatory papers. So make sure to cite only the papers that are highly reputable. Okay? Then you select the reputable journal or books, as I have mentioned already. Open access journals, good sources of free research articles. Why? Because the open access journals or highly reputable journals are journals that has undergone or have followed strict processes involved in publication environment. For example, on my personal experience, I have published only on the quarter 1 or top 25% journals. So most of my publications are under the top 25 journals. What do you mean? And then in the world, for that specific field, for example, the field of post-harvest engineering or food engineering, the top 25% journals for that food engineering or the Q1 are the high reputable journals, high ranking journals. So those journals are, since they are high ranking, so they are the most reputable journals. Most researchers doing the food engineering, process engineering, or post-harvest engineering will really refer or will really read that journals available for the top 25%. So that's high ranking journals. So make sure to read or to cite only references that are from high ranking or from reputable journals. It will give you a glance and a good idea on your research. Okay? Because these papers or these articles undergone or followed the strict publication process. Okay? Novice researchers like you can follow below steps for literature survey. So first, you have to do, you have to collect or you have to download at least 100 research papers. Okay? And then, which is related to your study, of course. Okay? You have to download, and then after downloading that 100, where can you, sir, asa may maka-download of 100 to 200 articles? Okay? There are a lot of search engines that will give you open access journals. For example, sciencedirect.com. Okay? The sciencedirect.com will give you open access journals. There are some journals that needs payment or like you cannot access without paying that article. So that's not open access. So, but there are a lot of open access journals. So you can review and then download that papers related to your study, and then like read and then read and read and then what's the relationship of this study to your study, and then take note, like paper number 1, this is the author, and then what's the current finding, what's the highlights of the study, and then you take note, you write in your notebook or your you save it in your notes, and then you write what's the finding of this. And then because when you already done the data gathering and data analysis, and then you are into the data interpretation or writing your results, then you can just review your notes. Okay, my literature's reference number 1 said that the blah 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 is this one which is related to my study. Okay, and then cite. Okay, what happened to this researcher is similar with my study. Okay, that's how a good literature survey is conducted. Okay, so first download, read, and then take note, take note, take note. Maybe you can highlight. You print all that downloaded articles. You print that and then highlight the uh, important or notable findings. For example, article number 1 said that there that as the moisture content increases, okay, the texture of the product also increases. Oh, it's a highlighting. It's a notable statement, and then you highlight. And then later on in your study, you can I have read already an article which said that the moisture content is related to the changes. Okay, and then you can cite. That's how the literature survey is. That's the technique of doing a good literature survey. Okay, so dili kay okay na nakay data analysis so palanggid ka kabasa bisag lahi nga article. Bisa naman lang dili related sa imong crop. Wala gid kay nabasahan kay nag-una ka sa imong data gathering. Kay gi-approve na ka sa imong panels. So that's not a good research practice. Okay, you have to read, take note, download, read, save all the things, and then find the notable findings. Okay, but particularly sa results na nimo siya makita. Results or sa highlights or sa conclusion. You can read a lot of highlights or notable findings. Okay. Use the identified keywords upon searching the related articles. Okay. So actually, I want to share with you how to do the keywording on the search engines. But later, maybe somehow during our live class, online class, I will give you a glance on how to do that. Okay. And the next is scanning and skimming, like reading. There's a difference between scanning and skimming, right? Scanning is like, if I'm not mistaken, scanning is like just reading the highlight statements, or then you are not reading all the details. And I think skimming is like reading all the details from page 1 down to the last page. I don't know. Maybe I have just a twitch. I'm just interchange the two terms, but that's how scanning and skimming differs. I learned that during my English 1 class and my undergraduate degree. So there's a difference between scanning and skimming, right? Like if you think that it's not that much important, and then just skip. Or if you think that this is very related to my study, and then read, and then highlight the related findings. What's the advantage of reading literature survey before doing the data analysis? What's the advantage? I'll give you based on my experience. If you have read at least 100 articles related to your study and then you have highlighted already the findings, when you do the analysis, when you do the data gathering, and then you found out that okay, the data, even if you did not yet, you are not yet done with the data analysis, you are just basing on your data. You can see that, as the storage days or as the drying days or drying time increases, the data also increases. Oh, okay, this is quite related with I have read on the previous article. Okay, that's how important. You already have the idea. Okay, it may somehow very similar or contrasting results. So, ingana siya ang ka-advantage. Kaysa naman wala gid ka idea, mabalaka ka, hala, sayop man ni akong nakuha siguro nga result kay mura magbakikaw akong result, nga mura nag-change siya, mura nagkadako ang akong drying days, mura naman hinuog ay drying time, nagkagamay na akong data. So that's the advantage if you already read several articles related to your problem. Okay, that's how it is being considered. The last one is shortlisting. Okay, if this is quite not related to your study, and then omit that. Okay, disregard that paper. Okay, disregard that paper. Anong magbasa man ka if it's doing the paper talks about programming, and then your research is all about designing a machine or assessing the quality of the product. So you have to pursue that particular article. Okay? Dili, wala na, di man siya related. That's why you first read the abstract if you are referring to journal articles. Example, nag-download ka 100 articles dira. And then you want to shortlist. Okay? First, you read the abstract. And then what's the abstract all about? The abstract will somehow give you a glimpse or a glance on the research all about. The abstract will tell you all about the study. And then if wagin ka kasabot sa abstract, and then you go to the methods. Okay? Then you go to the conclusion or some parts of the results, and then you will find there that, okay, there is this research is all about this one. This is interesting. Okay, then put in your shortlisted articles. So that's the reference. Okay, a good study, according to my professor in research methods, a good study or research will have at least 40 to 60 references. Okay? If ang imo ganing thesis, ang imong reference napulo ra ka buok or below, dili gid na siya good research. Dili na siya kanang weak na siya nga research kay wala kay nimo na relate according to the existing. Dili nimo siya ma-contradict, walay contrasting statement, wala kay similar statement or whatever. So a good research might have at least 40 to 60 or even like master's thesis or doctoral dissertation will reach up to 100 references. So that's how a good research about. Novice researchers, again, may apply these approaches as well during the literature survey process. So select any one best paper related to your domain or topic. Okay, out of your 100 selected paper, and then mag-select pa gyud ka which are those very related and very important to your study. Always look at what other top researchers are doing in their researches. What the top researchers did. Okay? Knowing that you already know what are those high reputable journals, high ranking journals, like those published in Elsevier, Springer, Nature, Taylor's, and then the researchers, then you can check at the Google Scholar, you search that particular title, and then you can say how many citations it has. So you can have that, you can do that. Tanaw ni mo ang ka-reputable sa particular article, okay? And then focus on comparing the approaches, weaknesses, and strengths. Okay? You focus on that. Okay? What are the highlighting statements on that research? Okay? Maybe it's about that the carotenoid content were significantly increased. Okay, which is when the carbohydrates also increase. Okay, so there's a highlighting statement. And then what happened to your current state data? And then you can have a relationship. Literature survey can be done with respect to the following points. Okay, what and how? Unsa kaha? Unsaon ako? Unsa kay naa? Okay? Major steps involved. Unsa kay mga steps nga akong buhaton para mo come up na ko ani sa akong literature survey. Design and techniques, no? Analysis, strength and weakness, scope and gap. Okay? So you have identified your problem, you have identified your research, and then you have identified your objectives, and then you are assuming that you already done with your results and analysis. And then you screen out all your available literature and then doing this. Okay? Unsay naa, unsay ka relationship niya naa. Unsa ang design dito sa PICAS o ang technique nga gigamit sa ako. Ngay nga na ba? Sa analysis niya, unsa ka ang iyang strength and weaknesses didto sa mga previous studies nga imong gibasa o sa imo. And then you can relate. And then the gap and the scope. Unsay iyang scope asa siya taman, where what specific conditions iyang giset. And then sa ako aing ani, maybe my study only found this kind of data because my scope is too limited. It does not have different varieties, different storage temperature or drying temperature or whatever. And then you can have the relationship and then you can discuss. Okay? How can you discuss that without using different studies? No? So that's how you have to shortlist, you have to read, and then read. You have to identify related studies. Now, we have the hypothesis testing. Yung hypothesis testing kana bang sa Bisaya, unsay mahitabo kung kani ang akong kondisyon? Unsa kay mahitabo kung kani pud ang akong kondisyon? Okay? Unsa kay mahitabo kung kani nga variables akong panggamiton, kani nga mga variables akong panggamiton, kani nga analysis. So that particular point of your research is considering the hypothesis. Okay? A working hypothesis, according to the meaning, is tentative assumption made in order to draw out and test its logical or empirical consequence. So most studies will really specify the hypothesis. It's hypothesis testing, like hypothesis number 1. The design is focused on 30 mm thickness of this particular material. Okay? And then your thinking is what may happen. And then hypothesis number 2, the design is using this 60 mm like this one. And then the third one is using 90. And then the first one is no thickness applied. So like that, it's like a control. Which of those hypotheses somehow will give you a good result? So maybe you, after doing the analysis, and then you can reject or accept that kind of hypothesis. Okay, kani di ay nga condition ang effective. That's hypothesis. Hypothesis provide the focal point of research. Like it's a main goal. Right? Aside from your objectives, because objectives will guide you on doing the research, on doing the methods. But the hypothesis will really give you a direction, like a point direction that, okay, what will happen if this condition is to be applied. Okay, hypotheses affect the manner in which tests must be conducted in the analysis of data, because you will always go back to your hypothesis. Hypothesis will guide the researcher by delimiting the area and to keep the research going on. Like, okay, this kind of method or this process is not already part of my hypothesis. So why I have to do this? Okay, so it will limit or it will specify your scope. So nga na ka-importante ang hypothesis. Okay, some researchers will not define hypothesis, but you can see it on their objectives, and you can see that on their methods. Okay, maybe the hypothesis is like this, and then after doing the analysis, and then the hypothesis has been answered or not accepted or rejected. So that's how the working hypothesis being applied. A working hypothesis arises as a result of a priori thinking about the subject. Priori, like an advanced thinking, examination of the available data and material, including related studies, and the council of experts and interested parties. Okay, assuming that you already identified your research, you have already have the hypothesis, and then you have conducted the literature survey, and then we can continue with the research design. Okay, unsa naman sa research design? The research design, example, the research problem having been formulated in the clear-cut terms, and then naka-survey na ka of related literature, and then the researcher will be required to prepare a research design. Unsa may naa sa research design, sir? Okay. And the research design, it is a preparation of a certain design to be as efficient as possible, yielding maximal information. So, critical part po ni sa research, no? Important part po ni siya sa research. Wherein, it's a guide for your data gathering, data analysis. It's a guide. You have to refer with your research design. Kaya dili man ka maka-collect of data if you are not setting up your research design. But how all this can be achieved depends mainly on the research purpose. You have to go back with the purpose of your research. Say, pasabot sa purpose ug sa objective, sir. Sa kalahian. Purpose is like, you have considered the scope, the significance, and the importance of your research. Like, for example, your research is to solve an issue of a certain organization. Okay, a problem involving the processing of that particular farmers organization, and then so those people are your target beneficiaries of your research. And then in the design, you have to incorporate those methods that you can address that particular problem. Dili lang katong nag-design lang kag machine, no? So sa imong buhaton, maybe somehow you do an interview. You have to design a survey questionnaire, because after answering or after achieving your research, like, okay, gi-utilize na nila ang imong machine, nagamit na nila, and then unsa man dayon? Na-satisfy ba sila o wala? Okay. You have to incorporate in your research design that maybe you will also design a survey questionnaire, and then you will ask the beneficiaries if they are satisfied or not with your output. So that's how the research design, research purpose must be considered. Right? Dili kay nag-solve ra kag certain problem, nag-address ra kag certain issue, and then wala nimo siya study if na-solve ba nimo o wala. So that's the main purpose of your research, to identify certain problem, kinsay maka-benefit, and then those beneficiaries really satisfies your answer. Okay. So the research purpose is like exploration, description, diagnosis, experimentation. Okay. You do with this exploration first, like, okay, thinking about your research, and then describing your research all about. And then you do the experiment, and then diagnosis. Is it clear, or does it answer the certain problem or a certain question? So that's how the research purpose must be considered. Okay. So after that, nag-consider na ka o describe na nimo ang imong research design, okay? Okay, and then going to exploration na ka, okay? So you have to consider also if what type of research is this? Is this experimental or non-experimental? When you say experimental, it can either be formal or informal designs. No? Ito mga experimental ba? Katong mga studies that involve data gathering that involve laboratories, experimental or in the field work. So ingana siya nga pagka type of research. So mag-apply ka diha mga formal or informal. Like kung formal, you have to apply statistical analysis or interventions like RCBD design, RBD design, least significant difference, complex analysis. So diha nimo siya ma-apply kung formal siya. Kung informal, kadto ra tong mga with or without control. For example, two set of variables siya. So ang imong data analysis is control or non-control nga setting. Okay? So ingana lang siya kung informal. Mostly, labi na sa ato engineering, we are doing the experimental and formal data analysis. So ingana ang ato. Kung mga non-experimental, mao to silang mga wala nag-involve og random assignment like wala lang, survey questionnaires lang niya. Kuan lang, question lang sila, kanang mag-interview lang sila and then analyze. So that's non-experimental. Any study in which the researcher does not have quite as much control as they do in the experiment. So ingana siya. And then you also have to consider the means of obtaining the information. How will you do that? And availability and skills of the researcher. You have to consider that. That doesn't mean you already have identified your research. You did not consider the availability of resources. So you have to consider financial, skills nimo, if capable ba ka na nga study, na ba kay background, okay? Time available for research. Huh? I-consider nimo, gusto gid nimo ni i-research, pero wala di kay time, kulang ang imong time. Kay you are given only 1 semester or 5 months and then the study will require at least 1 year para mahuman. So you have to consider that, okay? And the cost factor such as finances, okay? Isa gid ka problema ang finance in doing the research. Kung available ba ang imong resources, financial resources para maka-come up ka ani nga study, okay? So, sample design, na duha ka types sa sample design, we have probability and non-probability. For probability, each element has a known probability of being included in the sample, okay? And those based on simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster area sampling, and so on and so on. Okay? The non-probability, however, is also a type of sampling which do not allow the researcher to determine this probability. Like when you say random sampling, stratified random sampling, for example, a group of students nagkuha lang kag 5, provided that it is very well randomized. So it's a random sampling. So ingana depende sa imong study, depende sa imong design sa imong study. For example, the plan to select 12 of a city's 200 drugstores in a certain way constitutes a sample design, right? Kaya dili man nakasabot nga nag-study ka ana nga particular problem, tanan na lang gidayon imong sampulan. Depende, no? Depende sa capability of katong mga ipang-mention ako ganina nga considerations kaning upat ka buok, okay? Means, availability, time, unya cost, okay? So for example, the researcher study about drugstore management, and then you don't need to study all the drugstore branches in Butuan. You just have to select, like randomize. You just have to pick up at least 5, or maybe in every barangay you have to select 1. Okay, so it's a stratified random sampling. Okay, so that's how you do the sampling. So deliberate sampling, also known as purposive or non-probability sampling. For example, a judgment sample of college students might be taken to secure reactions to a new method of teaching. So judgment sample of college students. So dili tanan, just a selected or a select students to answer the questions or survey about the new way of teaching. A simple random sampling somehow is a type of a sampling which is a probability sampling where each and every item in the population has an equal chance of inclusion. So tanan sila must be given importance, must have the chance to be included in the sampling. For example, if we have to select a sample of 300 items from a universe of 15 items, then we can put the names or numbers of all the 15,000 items on a slip of paper and conduct a lottery. Okay? For example, kani 15,000 ang imong sample necessary population sa 300 ang imong population, 300 ang imong samples needed out of a 15,000 population. So kanang 15,000 dapat ilista na nimo kinsa na sila. And then you have to select, randomly select, lottery ka og 300 ka buok. So that's how a random sampling has to be conducted. Everyone has the chance. That's how the TV shows like mag-submit ka og entry, okay? Na ay 1 million ka buok TV watchers nga nag-submit og entry, and then they will just select 5. So they will randomize, no? Ilan na silang patuyok-tuyokon na nila ang kadtong gisudlan sa tanang entries, and then select 5. So everyone has the chance to be selected. Okay? And systematic sampling, sa stratified sampling, the stratified sampling, the population is stratified into a number of non-overlapping subpopulation strata, and sample items are selected from each stratum. For example, the study will conduct a survey about the perceptions of CSU instructors about the new way of teaching. Okay. And then there are over 200 instructors in CSU. Maglisod makag-study, hot doon mo sila. So what will you do is to group the instructors according to colleges. For example, there are 7 colleges in CSU. So your population is 200 instructors, and then you just need 50 or 70. So it means that out of 7 colleges, you just have to select 10 each college to constitute the 70 required sample out of 200 instructors. So sa 10 kabuok kada college, so nanay nag-represent every college. So na-cover nimo ang entire CSU, but nag-stratify lang ka og sample kada college nga napulo kabuok. So that's how stratified sampling has to be done. There are other like clustering, there are also area sampling, and so on. Okay, that's how they just differ according to their uses, okay, based on the definition. In collecting the data, the nature, scope, and objective of the study constitute the most important factors affecting the choice of method in data collection. Again, nature, scope, and objective. Okay? Di ka makakolect og data kung ano mo gi-consider ang imong scope o objective sa imong study. Funding availability, isa po ni siya ka consideration, right? Time availability, so, okay? Mga means, time precision, okay? Like you want to do a thesis, and then sige ra kag huna-huna sa imong thesis pero wala ka nagsugod-sugod o conduct sa study. So dili siya pwede. You have to balance your time between your academics and your research nga time. Dili ta pwede mag-procrastinate diri sa study o sa research. Procrastination is a big no-no in research because you will always think, and then you will think that it's possible. Okay, maybe I can do this next week, next month, and then the time already finished, no? No more time for you to do the research, and then wala na. Ma-extend na po kag semester. So there's a big no-no. So you have to consider that. And you have to consider the precision of your data. Like who collected the data? Is the collector of the data credible enough to do the data collection? Okay. Does the data collection follows the methodology, okay, based on the objectives? Okay. So you have to consider that. What were the sources of the data? Were they collected by using proper methods? At what time, where they select the data? You have to take note during your data gathering. Okay, the data were collected like 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then the weather is like this. The relative humidity of the surrounding is like this. So you have to specify that one. Okay, that's how important in precising the data gathering techniques. Okay. Data can be collected by any one or more of the following ways na ay observation, personal interview, field measurement, experimental setting, and survey questionnaire. Okay, this type or this method of data collection varies or depends mainly on the type of research that you are doing, right? Maybe we already discussed what are those types of studies, right? Like we have applied research, we have correlational research in the previous discussion, right? In the previous lesson. We already discussed that. So that will constitute with this type of data gathering. Okay, asa man diha. So if you are doing machine, you have to collect the data in the field. So it follows experimental data, right? Or field measurement data. If you are doing an assessment, you want to assess the quality of water, okay, then you are doing field or experimental. And if you are doing a research to assess the perception of farmers about machineries that they are using, and then you will use interview. Okay, so it depends on the type of research that you are doing, and then it will also constitute or will also depend on the type of data collection. So analysis of collected data, let's go with the analysis. When you do the analysis of data, it requires a number of closely related operations such as establishment of categories, the application of these categories to raw data through coding, tabulation, and then drawing statistical inferences, right? Katong giingon bitaw sa atong mga teachers nga, when you present data, make sure that you present it in a clear and concise way. What do you mean by that? Clear means, posible na nga, di na ka magpakitag data diha, basta kay sa graph, makita nga, klaro siya kung unsay kalahian. Okay? Pwede na nga, di ka magyaw-yaw diha sa imong results o pilay ni gawas, pilay imong na-come out sa imong analysis. Just make sure nga naa sa table ang imong mga data. Then, the reader will really understand your research. Okay, that's how the first statement implies. The result is an important section in the research or of the research. If the topic is totally new, then one cannot compare his or her results with existing. Grabe gid siya kabago. For example, nobody did designing a machine about maghagpat sa kamunggay. Even if tuwad balis karon nimo ang internet, you cannot find a reference related to de-leafing or magtanggal og anang dahon sa kamunggay. De-leaf or de-leafing. So, it is very unique, it is very new. Then, you cannot compare with the other existing. Kaya wala pa may study sa kamunggay. Okay? And you cannot compare that. So, you just compare with whatever related, like maybe de-leafing sa banana, de-leafing sa other crops. But, you cannot mainly focus on them. You can just focus on your data. So that's how the statement goes. So here, the hypothesis should be tested with multiple approaches and the results can be compared. Okay, i-compare gid nimo kay wa man kay lain data nga ma-compare nimo ang results about sa machine nimo nga mag-de-leaf og kamunggay. So you have to get a number of data or a number of considerations sa imong machine to de-leaf the kamunggay. Okay, maybe you use a different gear, a different size or a different sieve, a different size or different material. Then you compare so that you have a lot of data particular to the leafing of kamunggay. Okay, and then if already some scientists work on methodologies or the topic is important to compare your results with the existing state-of-the-art results from the literature. Katong akong giingon nga, if naanay available data, ayaw na is-twist ang story. Okay? Compare na lang what happened to yours and what happened to your current findings, what happened to your research, and what happened to the previous findings. So just compare. Okay? For example, this statement number 1, okay? The statement says that these soluble solid contents or SSC values were similar to the SSC values reported by G et al. 2013 that range from 4.5 to 10.2 with Kilin cultivar for predicting as SSC model by means of near-infrared region spectroscopic transmission technology. So, gi-compare ni Sanchez et al. 2020 ang iyang result sa result ni G et al. 2013, which is similar ang ilang nakita na soluble solid contents nag-range og 4.5 to 10.2. Okay, naay related study. So, compare, state, cite the related studies para ma-confirm pod nga ang imong study is wala kayo nag-vary. Wala kayo nagsukwahi ang imong study. Okay? Another example, this one. These findings are in agreement with the results of Van Oerschot in 2003, who reported the similar changes in the textural properties of sweet potatoes stored at 20 degrees Celsius for 8 weeks. So there are similar studies, similar results found or mentioned based on the related study, no? Na di kapareho nga ingani di ang na-found pud niya. So ingana lang siya, imo lang siyang i-cite. Then if contradicting ang inyong result, then you cite. Okay? For example, however, Boyles found a high moisture content of banana when drying at 20 degrees Celsius, while the current study found a low moisture content ng banana when dried at 18 degrees Celsius. Ngayon na ba? For example. So, you just have to say, you just have to contradict. It's okay because it's a finding. Okay? Results should be represented in the visual format using tables, figures, and or graphs. Tabulation is a process that conserves space and reduces explanatory and descriptive statement. Kay when you do research, when you present your data in a tabular form, mas dali siya sabton kaysa magbasa. Okay? Ano bang nakatabulate na ang data and then naka-differentiate na sila according to their standard deviation, according to their significant differences, kung significant ba sila with each other. And then kung ako'y researcher, ako'y reader, magtanaw, okay, the data shows it all based on the table. Na pwede nakadili mo basa dito as a statement. Okay? Tabulation also provides various statistical computational information which facilitates the summation of items and detection of errors and omission. So, ingana lang siya. For example, the data based on Mood Ali paper, makita lang nimo, okay, the highest R-square is found in the pH and firmness of red seedless watermelons. Okay? Without even reading the results and discussion, then you can say that, okay, the calibration and prediction values in terms of R-square, the highest prediction and calibration in terms of I-square can be found in the firmness and pH of red seedless watermelon. So, nga na lang siya. Dali na mo siya masabtan. Nga na siya ka-importante ang tabulation. Another example, Zulkifli, makita po nimo on how the lightness, redness to greenness, and yellowness to redness values of colors, firmness, total soluble solids, and acidity of banana are being differed. So makita nimo nga, okay, nag-increase di siya as the ripening stage increases as well without reading the details on the results. So sa data pa lang, sa tabulated data, makita na nimo siya nga, okay, nag-increase di ang iyang L value. Okay? Nag-increase ang iyang A, okay? Nag-increase ang iyang TSS, nag-increase or nag-decrease po ang iyang pH. So you can then relate with your current finding. And then you can write, okay, however, in the findings of Zulkifli in 2019, it was found like that the pH value of banana in storage based on the table. And then you can just see. So the importance of this relationship or the importance of this citation is each table will give a clear title that does not require any explanation. Okay? Basta kay na-specify lang nimo diha, na-differentiate lang nimo ng data, then you can have a good analysis based on the tabulated data. Okay? And then, aside from tables, carefully choose the type of graph. Kanipong graph, kanang gitudlo sa inyong statistics class or engineering data analysis class or whatever class or subjects ninyo involving data analysis, you have thought that presenting the results must be on the proper graph. For example, since you are doing a correlation analysis, it means that you have to graphically present the correlation analysis. Ayaw siya i-graph nga kadtong naka-pie chart, no? Kay relationship man, so makita nimo ang iyang relationship between predicted and calibrated values. So ingana bali, okay? And other example, you are presenting a graph about the percentage of componential percentage of classifying the, for example, the variety of watermelon according to colors, no? So color 1 variety, color 1 which is blue variety 1, color 2 which is red variety 2. And then the reader or the researcher will find your paper very interesting because of your proper graphical presentation. Dili kay you are presenting population pero imo siyang bar chart, no? So if you are presenting population and then you present in a pie chart para makita pila ka percent ang male, ang female, ang lesbian, ang gay, for example. So make sure to select the proper graph when presenting your or giving presentation about your collected data. So the results section may include the problems faced during collection. So pwede nimo dito ibutang during the data collection, the researcher found difficulties in getting the moisture content because of too high temperature, like this, like this, like that. Or maybe it's not good to always come inside the storage room as it will affect the health risk of the researchers. You have to put on your results or even on your discussion on your challenges or your findings. Okay, and then the last one is research report writing. Okay, assuming that you already done from introduction, objectives, review of related literature, and then methods, data analysis, interpretation, and presentation, and then write the manuscript. You write the manuscript, okay? The research report is a medium to convey research outcomes, contributions, findings, and results to the outside world. It decides the quality of your research work. For good writing, a lot of good reading is recommended to understand how people communicate their ideas. Different agencies, institutions provide their own formats. Maglahi-lahi. For example, ang thesis writing sa CSU, maglahi kaysa sa MSU. Maglahi po sa USEP and other universities. So, nga na siya. Ang thesis, ang research writing sa DENR mag-vary according to the research writing in DSWD, DILG, okay, and DOH. So maglahi-lahi. But basically, they have the same process and composition. Introduction, objectives, review of related literature, results or methods, and then results, and then conclusion. So nga na lang siya. Maglahi-lahi ang format, but somehow the 8 process or the 8 to 10 processes are just the same. Okay? Note that the researcher should first start with an introduction and can continue with literature survey, methods, data sets, and results. Then can have a conclusion and then acknowledgement and then references. So nga na siya basically ang pag-write sa paper. So nga na, from abstract, okay, assuming na you are done, you have already write your manuscript, okay, you already done with the data analysis, the graphs, the tables, and even your references. So you can have this complete package of paper from abstract down to appendices. Okay, sir, why some researches does not require abstract? There are some formats that does not require abstract. However, if this research has to undergo publication, patent, and even research thesis publication in the internet, abstract is very important because most reviewers, most critics will read first the abstract before formally doing the review process. For example, I'm a reviewer in an international journal. So I did review some articles, and then I am invited as a reviewer in some articles before it will be published or accepted for publication. And then the first thing that I want to read is the abstract. Okay? If it interests me to read the entire paper, and then I will note what are the things that need to enhance or what are the things that need to be added or deleted in the paper. So based on the abstract, and then somehow the abstract is like the cover page of the research article, right? Like you have a book, okay, the foreword, okay, will give you a glance on what's the book all about. For the paper, research paper, the abstract will give you a glance or a background on what's the paper all about, because it will discuss there your objective, your general methods, the results, and even its significance. So that's how. So from abstract down to intro, literature review, problem statement and objectives, then methodology, results and discussions, summary or conclusion, then acknowledgement. So what's the acknowledgement? Katubang imong mga personal nga mga friends. Maybe you can put your personal friends, but most acknowledgement will state the funding institutions, like who funds your research, maybe your parents or your scholarship or any agencies that give you financial assistance. So you have to acknowledge. the person or the people behind the success of that research, and then you have to acknowledge. Okay, contribution statements. What does it mean? For example, you are doing a research or thesis, then you are a group of 3. Okay, for example, Rizal, Bonifacio, and Quezon. So Rizal contributed based on data gathering. Bonifacio contributed based on data analysis, and then Quezon contributed this paper based on the uh, uh, arranging the paper or writing the manuscript. So that's how you do the uh, contribution statement. And then the references following the APE, IEEE formats, and etc. and etc. So appendices are those data, results, tables, graphs, and etc. that are not necessary in the main text of the manuscript. Just put it on the appendices. Okay, so a research report writing, for example, you have to acknowledge, for example, acknowledge and read added to the references. So, kung sa itong imong gipang acknowledge dito, kung sa itong imong gipang cite sa imong manuscript, make sure that everything must be reflected in the reference list. No? For example, in the figure 3 of this article, it cited Unwoody as a reference system for the technology, and then you have to put Unwoody on the reference list. So that's how the citation works. And then references can be organized in alphabetical or chronological order. When you say alphabetical, mag-start ang researcher's name from letter A down to letter Z. Kung chronological, maybe starts from the year regardless of the alphabetical order. So nga na siya ang pagi. Acknowledgement, katong mga funding institutions, friends, contributors, or katiin yung mga experts nga gi-hire. Okay. So the last presentation will be all about the criteria of a good research. What is a good research? The purpose of the research should be clearly defined. No? Wa ganin mo na clearly define ang research, so it's not a good research. Next one, the research procedure used should be described in sufficient detail to permit another researcher to repeat the research. Ano bang, you have to define your methods. What are the, example, this research uses colorimeter. Okay, unsa ka itong colorimeter? And then you have to put open and close parentheses. Unsa itong brand, asa ito nimo napalit, pilay voltage ato. So you have to identify para ang katong mga future researchers na mag-replicate sa imong study, maka-follow sa the same nga instrument nga imong gigamit. Dili kay, you just have to mention your methods na, okay, color measurement. Okay, the color measurement was done by reading at least 3 times of this one and this one, using the handheld colorimeter. Nya ang ako nga nagbasa, wala ako kabalo kung unsa ka ito nga colorimeter. And then, the best research is to identify even the brand, even asa to siya gipalit. Ibutang to nimo dito unsa to siya nga unit, unsa to size or diameter sa iyang reading lens. So ibutang nimo, that's a good researcher is. The procedural design of the research should be carefully planned to yield results that are as objective as possible. Kana bang general objective, and then you specify what are those specific objectives. And then dapat ang imong objectives mo follow or mo relate sa imong methods. Dili kay naglahi imong methods, naglahi imong objectives. So dili na siya good research. The researcher should report with complete frankness. Frank ka gid kaayo, dili kay tuyok-tuyokon ang statement. For example, ana na kay data, may ingon ka dito based on the table as shown in table 1, which column 1 presents the moisture content, the column 2 presents soluble solids, the column 3 dili na siya necessary because the reader, the reviewer, or the researcher nga mubasa sa imong research will not necessarily need your detailed presentation and interpretation. So you have to be frank, like as shown in the table 1, the moisture content increases as the storage days increases. Diretso, dili na i-twist-twist ang storya sa imong analysis kay mataas na, okay? And this study, findings is in agreement with the findings of Bonifacio in 2008, which also obtained an increased moisture content as the drying temperature increases. So, nga na diretso. Then, sumpay na po ka, what are the parameters nga imong na-identify, okay? However, the color decreases as the storage days decreases. Nga na diretso. No need to twist all the stories. Okay, no need to, you just be frank. You have to be frank with your results. Okay? And Methods of analysis should be appropriate. The validity and reliability of the data should be checked carefully. In what way that you will check the results credibly. Okay, kadto imong statistical analysis nga gigamit, dapat imo to siyang specify. Unsa day imong consideration, pila ka buok imong sample sa calibration, sa prediction, etc., etc. So that's how you can specify para the future researchers who will replicate or who will study your recommendations, ma-follow lang gihapon nila kung sa tong imong methods. Okay? Conclusions should be confined to those justified by the data. Dili kay whatever your findings and the results and discussion, imo gihapon siyang i-copy-paste sa conclusion. No. For example, you have found that all the quality parameters increases as the drying increases. And then you just specify in the conclusion that based on the study, all the quality parameters increase as the drying increases. Ana ra di kay ipang-state pa nimo dito si moisture, si acidity, si kuan. So dili na siya necessary. Just the highlighting or notable findings. Okay? Greater confidence in research is warranted if the researcher is experienced. Katong hanas na, no? Katong naanagi mga experience mag-research. Has a good reputation in research and is a person of integrity. Katong mga person researches nga dili mamalit, no? They are not buying the researches para lang ingnon nga na sila research nga na-conduct. They are not paying a lot of money just to publish their articles. Kadto sila ang mga highly integrity nga mga person, no? So mao to sila ang naay expertise, nato sila ang kanang naay credibility sa ilang research outputs. In general, before ending the presentation, a good research is systematic, logical, empirical, and replicable. With incomplete or without addressing these four important words in your research is not a good research at all. Okay? It must be systematic. Systematic means it follows the processes in research. Okay? You follow. It is complete, no? Dili kay nindot imong objectives pero wala kay methods. Okay? Must follow from abstract down to acknowledgement and references. Logical. When you say logical, kana bang wala nag-twist-twist ang imong statement sa results, like you are talking about moisture but you are relating your moisture to the soluble solid contents of the same crop. No, it's not logical. You have to compare with the moisture changes or the same parameter in your findings and the previous findings. You have to be logical, no? Technically correct. Empirical, kung may empirical, it's all about the data. For example, percent, no? The measurement is percent, moisture content measurement is percent, and then why you are using degree Celsius? So it's not empirical. You are not following the correct, especially if the scientific notation and scientific decimal places, like the data must be uniform. For example, if your data, tabulated data in column 1 are addressed in 2 decimal places, and then all the data in the different columns must be in the same decimal places. Dili kay ang isa ka data nga gitabulate nimo 2 decimal places, ang isa ka data is 1 decimal place. So it's not empirical, it's not logical, and even systematic research findings. Okay? And when you say replicable, katong akong giingon, it can only be a replicable data if you discuss or you identify, you elaborate your methods, your results in a proper and very, very detailed manner. Like, nagamit ka og computer para ani nga mga study, high-end computer. And then, you put what's the brand of the computer. What's the processor? What's the internal koan? Okay, you use statistical analysis software, and then there are a lot of versions of statistical analysis software. And then you put the version 1, 2010. Ana. Okay? You used moisture meter, and then what's the brand? What's the voltage? What's the amperage rate? What's the rating capacity of this moisture meter? So you have to specify so that the people who will want to replicate your study, either they want to replicate to contradict or to confirm your study, and then they can do it because they have found that your research is very detailed and very replicable. Okay? So I think that's it for the processes about research. I hope that you have gained a lot in my presentation, and I hope that you have gained or learned the very basic on the processes of research. So thank you so much. Okay, for the reference or the book, it was this presentation was uh, summed out from or being referred from Kothari in 1990, a good research methodology book, good for neophytes or for newbie in research. So thank you so much. And once again, good day and God bless.